Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another retro magazine thing. Because this time we're looking at GM Magazine number 4 from December 1988. Which is absolute prime time for me because this magazine, while it doesn't have loads of role-playing stuff in it, not lots of articles telling you how to game properly, not lots of adventures, what it does have is tons of interviews with the creators of science fiction, fantasy. What it's got is loads of reviews of stuff. So many things I've covered on the channel before. Absolutely, this is when I was going out and buying lots of stuff, when I was just a teenager and had lots of disposable income. Now, before we go over to the desktop and have a look at that, I have to say, please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't done. Commenting here really helps, and if you want to make any suggestions on other things I can cover, obviously I'm working my way through my massive magazine collection, but if you've got ideas for role-playing games I can cover, adventures I can cover, supplements I can cover, because I've never really asked for those before. And I'll put them in the polls, and we shall see what people want to see. It really helps the channel out, commenting, so I'd appreciate it. I also like to thank my Patreons, who are wonderful, wonderful people who help support the channel, so I'd like to thank them from the absolute bottom of my heart. Their efforts are really so much appreciated. But I have to ask, if you'd like to support the channel, or you'd like to see these videos early, or you'd like to see Patreon exclusives, of which I put one up this week, then there's a Patreon description down below. If you check it out, it'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's get on and look through Games Master, or GM Magazine, issue number 4. So, this is GM Magazine, issue number 4, from December 1988. Remembering, of course, that UK magazines, the month is when it's going to be on the shelf. So this will have come out in November. Probably the tail end of it. And GM Magazine is more a magazine about the culture around role-playing, rather than focusing on giving you adventures and skills within role-playing. So it's going to have a lot of interviews, but the thing I am most excited about with this issue is that it has so many reviews of games that I've already covered on the channel. So let's delve right in. So on the cover we've got a picture of probably Mega Traveller from Games Designers Workshop, maybe Battletech or something, but I think it's Mega Traveller, especially as the Complete Traveller is a bit large section of it. Inside, we've got an advert for a computer game, War in Middle-earth. Labyrinth, get into live role-playing now. Contents page, editorial, not too much interesting in there. And we're straight through to some adverts, Advertising Standards Authority, GURPS, Espionage the Game, for computers, computer game now available. It's something I don't really remember. We're into the news section, a large section talking about Nightmare, which I've covered in a previous issue. Nightmare being a television program in which a group of kids were talked through a sort of dungeon, while one of them wore this helmet that you can see in the background, or the kid in the background holding. It would block out his vision, but the other kids could see him transposed into a fantasy world as he walked around. Actually, he's just in a sort of green screen studio walking around blindfolded. We've got live action role-playing news from them, a computer game Sword of Sodan, Realm of Chaos, which we've covered on the channel, Computer Wars, some AD&D computer games, The Dungeon Master's Assistant, which I must have a look at sometime, Hillsfar, which wasn't a whole load of fun, Ultima 5 on the Commodore 64, what else we got here? A large interview with William Gibson, all about Neuromancer. Which we're going to be getting made into a TV series sometime soon. One of the foundations of cyberpunk. So, absolutely fascinating interview there. Some of the readers' figures, painted up quite interestingly. I like the sort of giant's head. Cyber dinosaur. Adverts. Nothing which jumps out at me. Review or a playtest of City State of the Invincible Overlord. Something which I must get around to covering. Large section on that, talking through it. We've got a board game playtest for Dark Future, which they're not terribly impressed with. I really like Dark Future, but I'm probably influenced by the novels which came out. The novels were absolutely fantastic. Gave an interesting Mad Max type cyberpunk world. Lovely, lovely stuff. The thing about the game I liked is that the vehicles in it were the same size as Matchbox toy cars. I don't know if that's a thing, but sort of toy cars you got as a kid, these are the same size. So you could get them and you could glue the guns and things to them and have other cars rather than just the Interceptors and the Dune buggies provided. A Spy in Isengard, Treason at Helm's Deep. Middle-earth Quest, so I'm guessing solo roleplay books, yeah. We've got the Forgotten Realms City system, which I've covered on the channel before. I really like it. They've only given it a 6 out of 10. Gavizir Rocks for Living Steel. Again, I thought it was fantastic. They're giving it a 7 out of 10. We've reviewed it on the channel. Mega Traveller, again, covered it on the channel. 9 out of 10. They really, really like it. So I'm guessing this is when it first came out. Mail order stuff. Halls of the Elven King by Iron Crown Enterprises. Lancelot for different computers. Tribes of Crane. Don't really remember that at all. Some stuff on Play by Mail. A large interview with Steve Jackson and Ian Livingston, the two founders of Games Workshop, and wrote loads and loads of game books, the fighting fantasy ones. These guys are the foundation of my entry into the hobby. Some great stuff talking about the sorcery books, talking about Joe Dever, who they used to game with, a big list of all the stuff they've brought out, so much. An advert for different role-playing things from different game stores. A solo game, The Battle of Setzer by Joe Dever, the guy behind the Lone Wolf fantasy game books. And we have it's an excerpt from The Dungeons of Torgar, their game book of the year. So one of the Lone Wolf books, and it talks about, or rather, it's you choose your adventure type thing through it, along with a large battle. Really quite interesting way of handling a battle. Loads of that in here. Win a Battle Day with Joe Dever. I'm very, very jealous of whoever got to do that. A section on various designs. Some of them very 8-bit. An incomplete guide to role-playing, talking about different types of gamers. I don't find this particularly funny. A GM short story, Dawn of a Legend by David Gemmell of all people, so very big names in here. That carries on for a chunk of the magazine. Preview Meddling with Middle-earth. War in Middle-earth game, we've seen advertised. Secret Affair with Fantasy, an interview with a band, rock musician Ian Page, former frontman for the band Secret Affair. He likes fantasy fiction. My wife remembers him, I'm afraid I don't. Fantasy Battles. Trouble at Mill for live role-playing. The letters page. And David Langford's Critical Hits. As I've said before, he came from White Dwarf magazine. He brought it off, it was Critical Miss, I believe it was called. And now he's calling it Critical Hits, so I think he's maybe had to change his name. But there's not a lot he's reviewing there which really jumps out to me that I remember. An advert for next month, Splatterpunks Die, Merchants of Menace, Christmas Alone, GM's horribly festive short story. E. Gary Gygax, The Untold Story, Dark Fantasy with Raymond E. Feist, and Meet Storm Constantine, which I did through this magazine. I read some of the books after that. And on the back cover, we've got the Periphery for Battletech. So, not a massive amount of stuff in there. There's no adventures, there's no advice on how to improve your games mastering or how to be a better roleplay stuff. Just lots of interviews, lots of fantasy stuff, and lots of reviews of stuff that I'm definitely into because I've covered so much of it on this channel. So that was GM Magazine issue number 4, and some great stuff in there. It really surprises me how much was coming out at that time. The idea that the magazine has an article interviewing William Gibson about Neuromancer, because he wasn't a famous writer at the time. Neuromancer wasn't this pillar of cyberpunk that it is now. You know, there's an Amazon series getting made of it these days, I believe. But he had to tell people what cyberpunk was, because this was a new thing. The idea that we had a world when we didn't know what these things were, within my lifetime, when I was still collecting games and stuff, really surprises me. And great interviews with Steve Jackson and Ian Livingston, the founders of Games Workshop. Some great stuff in there, and so many games that I've covered on the channel. Obviously, this is when I had lots of disposable income, and I was buying so many of these games, the stuff that now fills my shelves. But anyway, as usual, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. As always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.